Welcome to the Launch It podcast. This week we have a special guest. We have Jennifer McConnell from the Women's Trucking Federation, and then we also have our regular co-hosts,
Evan and Karen.
Evan and Karen Deep. A little delayed on the hello there, but Evan and Karen Deep. Karen Deep in the green shirt, Evan in the blue shirt. You should guys recognize him by now. This week we're going to talk about a topic that we kind of brushed upon last week with Paula. We felt that we really needed to address it right away because it's very important. We're going to talk about women in logistics and how we can get them more involved, how they're making an impact in the industry, and you know, what kind of changes they can bring to the table. And we were just having a discussion before we hit the record about in the workplace, and it was a great discussion. Evan asked a question, which was, go ahead, Evan.
Well, it's just me and the guys talking, right? They said last of your 2 hires have been, candidates have been female dispatchers or female customer service. And they said, why is that? I'm just like, you know, women just think better and they're more calm in situations. It's less blow-ups and less sort of just, you know, explosive reactions to customer requests or drivers calling in. Women are more calm and they can just get things done in a more organized way. And then, you know, we were just talking about how women have less ego, as you mentioned, and then just a better mental sort of composure when it comes to working under pressure as compared to males. Because males, as you know, we're more aggressive and we're more just like go instead of thinking before what we do. And, you know, you guys can expand on that.
Yeah, I think everybody brings really unique things to the workplace, but adding women to your team, I mean, just from a business standpoint, it makes you more profitable. And there's tons of research out there on that. I don't need to list any, you can literally Google it. And it's going to tell you that women are team builders. The reason that they work great as dispatchers is simply because they can work with their teams. You know, they can help diffuse some of the situations when a driver's really stressed out. He's been stuck at Walmart sitting there waiting for them to offload 6 kids or whatever for 6 hours. And they're really stressed out. They can help diffuse some of those things just naturally, just based on the way that women's brains are wired.
So other than how they're wired, is it also the tone they use? Because like Evan was talking before, guys, when they approach a situation, when a guy sees another guy frustrated, he's like, "Come on, buddy, like get over it. You know, stop being such a, you know, whatever." Right? Women have a more natural approach, and guys naturally, when they talk to a girl, they don't want to seem like an arrogant, insert adjective here, kind of person, right?
Yeah, guys have a natural big ego, even though we could say we don't have an ego, but that as soon as something just triggers us, we get that, you know, that primitive reaction just to like want to punch the other person, right? Women don't have that. Women are just the opposite, right? If something pisses them off, what I've seen in business, they want to do even better and they want to get back at you through like positive results. Like, hey, you know, like, should I couldn't do this? This is what's been done. Who's laughing now type of thing, right? And that's what it comes to like company culture too. And that's what we try to promote too, sort of like, you know, everybody needs to stay calm, learn from the girls type of thing, what we made up, right? And, you know, control every situation in a business manner, not just emotional.
Well, you know, it's always really difficult when you get in some of these highly charged situations, right? You let your adrenaline and everything like that take over. Women tend to be a little bit more empathetic. So they are able to diffuse some of those situations. They're able to work with your customers a little bit differently than some of their male colleagues. Not saying one is better than the other. We would never say anything like that. They're just different approaches. And it is definitely an asset to have somebody who can diffuse situations, who can, you know, dish it out as good as she can get it, right? Definitely key in a dispatch role, and working typically with a group of gentlemen.
So why do you find in the last little bit it's been such a male, like it sounds like an asset, like you're ignoring 50% of the population by not hiring women. We have a shortage in the workforce in logistics. It just seems like a natural fit. Why is it only, was it the statistic you said earlier, 3% of women are in trucking? Like that just seems crazy.
Yeah, so 3% of women, I would say 3 to 4% of women are truck drivers, despite the fact that it totally works for women's lives. You know, just like men do. They have families and everything that they need to be home for. You know, they have to have time off at certain times, and it's just finding your workplace that fits best for you, because there's just so many different kinds of trucking that you can find a career. No matter who you are, it's going to fit what lifestyle you want to have. And is getting that message out, is getting girls touching trucks and being in trucks, and from a young age. It's dads taking their kids out, your girls out, and working on your cars with them, taking them out and working on their trucks with them. It's getting hands-on experience to girls at a young age that helps socialize them into wanting to be in the kind of careers that we offer. In the office, we're about 25% women, 75% male, so we can definitely do a lot better there. And that's simply, you know, looking at candidates and choosing to select for that role somebody who's going to have these skills, right? And choosing a candidate from there, cognizantly trying to choose someone who is a visible minority, female, and that sort of thing, are going to bring different things to the table than your colleagues.
I guess just touching on that in terms of, I know, Jennifer, you're kind of mentioning, you know, to kind of promote the industry with the broader, I guess, general population. I think, like, if you take it one step even behind that, the industry is not really promoted or, you know, educated amongst the school system or like the younger ages to begin with, right? So I think it's like a two-tier type of thing. It's, in general, there needs to be more light and shine on the industry. And then you tag on the whole element of, you know, women and what's called young women not being introduced to that as well, right? So there's already a gap within women, you could say, and then there's a gap in general knowledge of the industry, right? So it's kind of like,
for sure, there's been a lot of headway made in getting into trucks. I know that the OTA have road nights, and they go out and do presentations into schools. But Shelley, the president of the Women's Trucking Federation, also goes into a number of different schools, sort of the Kitchener-Waterloo area. I'm going to be going into schools with one of my colleagues, Carol, down here in the Windsor area. You know, we're trying to get out and get some visibility, not only for, you know, women in trucking, but the trucking industry in of itself. If we can draw better candidates into the industry, you know, your businesses are just going to be more profitable.
Yeah, we need to see more women in trucks, especially because, like, we had a couple of women drivers, and it's like, you know, as a dispatcher, you see the difference that, like, you know, when you dispatch someone, they're just so much more organized, and it's just like, it's so much more pleasant working with like female drivers, you know, rather than just guys that are just like yelling at you all day, like, hey man, get this done for me, get this done, right? And, you know, we really want to promote that kind of stuff as trucking companies. I guess what we can do is like, and the great thing about trucking is just like, you know, I don't know about the corporate world, but it's like, you cannot pay a women driver less than a guy. It just doesn't work, because you look at the person as what their skill set is as a driver, right? And I think that's what we really need to focus on. Look at a person for what their skill set is, and then worry about like the gender and minority and all this stuff later on, right? But overall, like, I feel like just having, like, you know, women drivers, women, like, you know, CSRs, dispatchers, has opened my eyes in terms of like more, I'll say, emotional intelligence towards, you know, developing that sort of side. Because before, it was just myself, my brother, and a couple of my friends at the company, right? We weren't that sensitive to these issues or just about developing, but now we know that as we grow as a company, like Matt said, 50% of the candidates are women out there. You know, that's 50% of the population you're missing out on. 50% of big ideas that you're missing out on, right?
Yeah. And just, you know, different ways of doing things, right? Everybody skins the cat differently. Just based on your personal background. So it's not, it's definitely an asset to be having women in your business.
And I thought it was interesting what you touched upon, Evan, that I want to kind of go a little bit further is, it's kind of hard to, and it's great that you said it because I never thought about it until now, is it's hard to discriminate against women when you post the rate per mile. Like, you can't be like, well, I'm going to pay you 20% less. Like, you're getting paid 68 cents or 40 cents or 42 cents or $1.55 a zone or whatever that number is. And if you walk in as a woman, you can't be like, well, you can't pay me less because of what reason? There's no rhyme or reason for it.
That's so awesome, man.
That's what, and you opened my eyes when you said it. I'm like, that makes our industry so much potential for it, but yet there's such a big gap for it. It's like, how can we get more women, like you said, get involved into the trucks, touching the trucks. Even guys like touching women. Like everybody likes going and looking at a big truck. You know, you're going down the road as a kid, you're
Yeah.
doing one of these all the time, right? Like,
Yeah. Dude,
I-
if I showed you like a female truck driver's truck and I showed you like a male truck driver's truck, I'm not trying to be like pro women all in this podcast and stuff, but I'm just saying, you look at the difference in terms of performance, fuel mileage. Paolo and I were playing on Samsara looking at it, right? Just for fun, like different drivers, the trucks are cleaner. And it's just like, you know, at the end of the day, in trucking, we have to promote it. We have to say like, you know, we're pro women hiring and we want to welcome you into the industry. And it's not just a bunch of just crazy guys running around. It is getting better. And just companies like us, younger guys need to promote it because it's the next generation that's transitioning into logistics. And that's what it is. Guys like us have to carry it and just really be open to it.
It's all about workplace culture, right? There are things that women specifically look for when they are looking for a job. And those things for men and women are very much coming together, right? For millennial generation, it's very key that you have a balance. That you're at home. I'm talking to the dads on the phone saying, I'm not doing the jobs that are taking me away from my family. I'm not going to do them, right? So it's finding a good balance for you, but knowing that these jobs are really for anybody. And yeah, I totally agree. We need to be promoting our industry, promoting how great these jobs are. Like people are still working during a pandemic, right? We were frontline workers during a pandemic. We're an important asset to our economy.
absolutely. And because you asked something, you said something there that's very important, and I think a lot of people will be interested in hearing is how do we get more women into trucks? Like besides like what traits, like how do we get encouraged? How would someone like Evan and KP and you know all those other companies out there, how do we get people interested in, how do we get women interested to get into their trucks? Like what can they offer differently what they're doing?
Differently, I think universally there's things that you could change. More flexible home time, and a lot of companies have gone that way, having a lot more flexible home time. When I first started in trucking, they didn't care. You're going to need to be home for your kids on the weekend. It didn't matter, right? But the workplace cultures are changing, right? They're being more family oriented. They're providing things like some companies I know provide online doctors so that you know, the wife that's at home who has 4 or 5 kids doesn't have to bundle them all up in the wintertime when one of them's sick to go to the hospital. They can do it from home. It's providing supports like that. You know, paid time off, paid mat leave, kinds of things are going to drive women into the industry. You can see that in banking and a number of other industries that are tend to have a lot of women apply into them. And it's all that they've built support networks for women that support their lifestyles and families and their career goals.
And you know what I think, like when I think about school and just all that, like careers and all that kind of stuff, right? Like, you know, a lot of students do part-time work in the summers and they're working at jobs for like 12, 14 hours a day and stuff. And, you know, trucking, you could do the same thing. If you're a girl in university and you want to get some extra cash to pay for your school and stuff, you know, you can drive a truck and get your license and you can work in the summers. In the winters, you can study. And in the summers, you pay for school again. And that's it. By the time you're done, you have, and you want to explore and you want to go traveling, guess what? You can travel Canada, USA, Mexico without paying for anything. And you're just doing it in your own office, getting paid for it, and get to go to all the places you want.
There's actually a couple like on my YouTube. There's actually a couple of like women truckers that are come popping up, and they're like going all over.
Do you remember Kelly
It's
from
actually pretty cool. And they're like,
Road Truckers?
yeah.
She was the main one. She was the one who started. I remember I was in like grade 5 and 6. She started. She's the first one I saw in truck. I asked my dad. I was like, "Does she drive a truck?" My dad was like, "I don't know." Right? I mean, it's just changing so much, and that's the positive thing. I think we should probably try to get her on the podcast too later on, right? She's the one who started this positive movement.
Yeah, the other struggle that women tend to have entering specifically into the driver's field is that not a lot of companies have people who can train a female. So a lot of companies, if you need to go out over the road, which is typically your first job in trucking, is you got to put in your lumps. So you'll go out over the road, but they don't have somebody who can train a female, someone who's not comfortable training a female, or maybe sexually harassed the female, and now they no longer feel comfortable, or just, personalities don't fit. So a lot of time women will go through, they'll get their trucking license, then they'll go to get on with the company and they can't find anybody to train.
Right.
Or have a hard time hiring them because they don't have the experience. I mean, they can't get the experience because
They can't
didn't-
find somebody to train them.
exactly. That makes sense.
Well, that's I think this is like a really tangible topic. I never thought about it, right? Because we just had female drivers who are like, some of them had even 15 years of experience, and we just thought about it like we took it for granted. Like, oh, they just know how to drive a truck perfect, right? But I'm just thinking about it from like, say, a recruiter's perspective. That's actually a good challenge to overcome. Maybe, have like, whoever does line haul be like, you know what, we need to have a couple of female line haul drivers because that's the only way we're going to be able to train them on the highway. And we can't just say, oh, go work locally because we're still limiting their potential, right? It should be like, we have a system in place. I know Bison has like that internal office thing where they have like a simulator. You do a few hours of training on that, and then you're eligible to go on the road. Like we're going down the path with our drivers, and I think like what we could do as a company is like do that, and then have sort of like I don't know, incentives for like say women drivers to be like, hey, if you train another like female or whatever, I don't know, you get like a gift card or something like that. It's just like a paid back program for the next generation. But it's a start of something. My idea might not be right, but it's a start of something though.
Yeah, there's a couple training programs that the Women's Trucking Federation was working on right now. So we're working on a project with one of the, I'm not allowed to go into too many details, but with one of the cities in Ontario, and they are going to be piloting a women's trucking program. It'll be a program that's again tailored to female drivers. So I think it's somewhere around 30 drivers they're looking to put through that program. So again, once those drivers are out, I'm hoping we'll have a lot of really great carriers that taken some time, just to have the workplace discussions, around gender and having trainees and just the different ways that women operate in the office, with the dispatchers and what have you.
I guess a little bit on the flip side. So I guess most companies, traditionally were male dominated. I know there's more and more, female owned and all female, what's it called, trucking companies popping up. I guess how do you feel about, too much of a good thing is, or too much of one thing is a bad thing, but would you say an all female, what's it called, trucking company would be a good thing or a bad thing? Not a bad thing, but I guess the limitation.
I don't think it would be a bad thing.
Yeah.
It'd be tough because you'd be discriminating if somebody who was from another gender or people who maybe don't necessarily define themselves as anything. You could be discriminating against groups of people like that, and that's not necessarily something I would want by any means. So, but the idea is great. No different than sororities and what have you. Having female groups definitely helps empower women. It provides them mentorship. As the Women's Trucking Federation, we have mentorship programs online. You're welcome to join if you go on to our Facebook page. We have a number of different mentorships groups, and it's individuals from everywhere, male and female, just giving advice on everything.
So what else can people, and I know you're part of association, the Women's Trucking Federation, what's their main agenda? Like, how do we promote more of what they do, and how can we talk more about that? Because I don't know too much about them, and I've been in trucking I know there's something out there, and I know they've interviewed people at my previous life before, and it was always great, but I never really understood it. Like, what's their objective? What do they bring to the table?
Well, we'd love for you guys just to get involved. We are just trying to provide a platform to support women in trucking. Again, do all the things that we've been talking about, provide the Touch a Truck opportunities for younger students, for teenagers to be able to really get out and see the different careers that you can have in trucking. We go to trucking career fairs. We're very active in the trucking community in and of itself. We provide scholarships to a number of different truck training schools, and we pair with them to provide gender-specific training as well.
That's awesome. We're down to the last minute, so last minute questions. Evan, KP, if you have any, let's get them out there.
Sure. I guess I know you mentioned a bunch of careers and titles. I guess more so focused on our side of the transportation equation. But how about on the other side in terms of mentoring or training people to become logistics coordinators, shipping coordinators, to work at shipping locations and manufacturers and stuff like that? Is that part of, I guess, the agenda as well, or?
Absolutely. I mean, some of that already happens in some of our groups. If people have questions, they're mentored. We suggest women that they should talk to. So if you were thinking about something in HR and that sort of thing, they might send them my way. We'd have a chat, and there'd be different things that I'd be able to help them with. Whether I know people who are looking to hire somebody, those are things that we can provide.
Awesome.
Awesome.
I think we're out of time here, but before we go, I want to say thank you very much, Jennifer, for joining us today. It was a great topic. I was looking forward to today. And we're going to have all the information that Jennifer talked about, part of our podcast, on the links below. We'll have all the links for anybody who wants to click on and wants to learn more about it, because we do need to get that message out. And we'll have it on our webpage. And if you ever have any questions, Jennifer will be available for us, to answer a question. Reach out to her on LinkedIn. She's great. I've known her for a bit now, and she's helping me out professionally right now at work. She's helping us out, and I think she brings a lot of great value. So always reach out if you have any questions to any of us, how we can get more women into trucking and how we can get more women into the transportation industry. And yeah, that's it. Thank you very much for joining us.
Awesome.